Travis Kelce and Chris Jones, they both made their season debut over in Jacksonville for a Week 2 matchup against the Jaguars, and both of them made impacts early. I mean, Chris Jones, he had 1.5 sacks, didn't miss a beat from his playoff run. Yes, he was on a pitch count due to conditioning issues because he didn't play during the training camp period, but I'm sure it's going to be a slow implementation, but he's very effective even on a pitch count. You're talking about Travis Kelce, red zone threat, one of the best receiving tight ends of all time. Just him being out there puts eyeballs. Defenders are going to be looking every which way. Where is 87 on that field? And yes, this offense with Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, it's going to be a work in progress. Right now, they're still not as crisp as I like. That right tackle right now, looking a little susceptible. There's a lot of pressure coming off that right side, right in Mahomes' face. Thankfully, he's one of the most elusive quarterbacks in this league, looking for passes downfield. So that's a big key part right there. It's just that battle, right? Because Eric Bieniemy left and Andy Reid now is without Eric Bieniemy. We're trying to see who was right or whose offense was it really. Right now, it's looking like Eric Bieniemy is off to a decent start in DC, but obviously it's a very loaded team here in Kansas City. I fully expect the Chiefs to respond and get a little bit more crisp as the season wears on. There's still some things I'd like them to fix. I mean, like I talked about protection wise, but they emphasized Kadarius Toney, who had the case of the yips on opening night, but at least he was featured on a drive. That's good to see. Sky Moore made a key impact in a deep pass caught in the fourth quarter to really ice the game right there. And once this running game gets implemented too, I think the Kansas City Chiefs will be that juggernaut that we're used to. But right now, they're leaning on defense because Steve Spagnuolo and this defensive unit has played really well to start the first 2 games. Even without Chris Jones, going back at the tape, they did a pretty good job in containing the Lions for the most part. They got loose a couple times, and possibly that's the reason why they lost, but they did the best that they could without their defensive anchor. Now that he's back and he's getting onboarded again, they're gonna look like they'll be leaning on defense to start off this year. The secondary, we pick on them a lot, but thanks to good coaching by Spags, Calvin Ridley had a stellar game in week 1, very quiet in week 2. Evan Ingram, not the biggest impact. They loaded the box on Travis Etienne, did a good job there. To flip over to the Jacksonville side, I think this was a missed opportunity. It just shows that the Jags aren't just there yet. They are closing the gap. They've looked pretty competitive against the Chiefs their last 2 matchups, both by 1 possession games, but you got to finish the deal. Getting shut out in terms of not getting a touchdown against the Kansas City Chiefs defense is a knock on this highly potent offense that we're talking about, right? Too many weapons, too much talent, and lack of execution. They missed a golden chance to get that lead up a lot higher than it was. Settling for 3 off a muff punt isn't going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. You got to cash in on those red zone trips, and they were 0 for 3. It's a big difference. 2 field goals could have been touchdowns. We're talking about a whole different ball game. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence was charged with a fumble. I did see it was a backward pass and it wasn't caught by Jamal Agnew. The fumble was given to Trevor Lawrence, but it's not really his fault entirely there. That's a 50-50 bang-bang play. But we have to talk about ball security. Those turnovers are big, key situational errors by the Jags shows that they're just a young team still learning to win on an elite level in this league. So I know it's not a finished product in Jacksonville. I'm sure the next time they meet, if they do in the playoffs, they'll be a lot better. But they have a lot of work to do if they want to close that gap with the Kansas City Chiefs.